I'm going to show you how to create a painting inspired by Georgia O'Keeffe. If you're new to my channel, please support me by liking this video and be sure to stick around and check out the other amazing art videos and art lessons on my channel, Rainbow Parrot Art. And please subscribe. Georgia O'Keeffe was an American modernist painter who lived from 1886 to 1987. She is most well known for her close-up and enlarged paintings of flowers and her iconic Southwest landscape designs. She is considered a pioneer in the modern art movement, which emphasized abstraction and broke away from the long-established norms of classical Western art. O'Keeffe's work uses bold colors and abstracted forms in order to capture the essence of the natural world. She continued to produce paintings up until her mid-80s, and she lived to be almost 100 years old. Today, she's remembered as one of the most influential artists of the 20th century. I'm basing today's project on O'Keeffe's painting called Lake George Reflection. To get started, I'm grabbing a long, narrow piece of multimedia paper, which I've cut to measure 9.5 by 14 inches. I'm drawing a line across the middle of the paper. This line represents the water's edge. It is where the lake ends and the land begins. Above this, I'm drawing a slightly slanted shoreline. Since the lake water is a mirror, I'm drawing the mirror image of this slant right beneath the water's edge. Remember that everything you draw below this line is merely a reflection on the water. O'Keeffe's painting is fairly abstract, so I'm going to guess that these are either bushes or trees. Now I'm drawing their reflection in the water. Again, this is abstract, so the reflection isn't a perfect mirror image. Now for a slanting hill and its reflection in the water. There are several large mountains in the background. Now I'm drawing the mountains reflecting in the water. Feel free to pause the video here if you need more time to draw. I'm going to use acrylic paint, but I'll be using the acrylic paint in a way that's similar to how one might use watercolors. So watch closely to see how I do it. I'm using a tiny brush to add light blue paint along the top edge of this hill. Then I'm dipping my brush into the water and adding this water along the edge of the wet blue paint. Then grabbing some more water and adding it to the blue paint. Now watch carefully. I'm removing all the paint from my brush using Kleenex and water. Next, I'm dipping my clean brush to load it up with water. Then I'm using my wet water-filled brush to mix water along the edge of this wet blue paint. The paint is very diluted by the water, and this creates a very light blue color. It looks similar to watercolor paint. I'm adding a thin dark purple line on the bottom. I'm cleaning the paint off my brush. Then I'm getting a bunch of water on my brush. This is a bit more purple than I want, so I'm using a Kleenex to dab it up. See how when I add clear water to the purple, how it makes the purple paint super light and translucent? Now I'm adding the reflection of this image below. I'm adding a dark blue line, then dipping my brush in water and painting right on top of this line with the water. Then cleaning the paint off my brush and adding clear water right on top of this wet paint. I'm painting a dark purple line on this mountain. Then while that purple paint is still nice and wet, I'm adding water to my brush and letting the water mix with the purple to make a lighter purple color as I fill in some of the mountain. I'm doing the same thing on the bottom where the reflection is. The paint will dry quickly, so whenever I add my paint, I want to add water to it right away before the paint starts to dry. I'm adding a line of dark green paint across the top of the mountain, then using tissue to remove the paint from my brush, then grabbing some water with my paintbrush, then adding this water to the green paint. See how the green along the top edge is very dark, while the watered down green in the middle is very light? I want it to be even lighter along the bottom, so I'm using my Kleenex to soak up some of the paint. Now I'm repeating the same thing below in the water reflection. I'm adding a pink line along the edge of this mountain, then grabbing some water and blending the water into my paint. Then removing all of the paint from my brush and then adding some clear water into my paint. I want it to be lighter at the bottom, so I'm using a tissue to blot up some of the pigment. And now I'm doing the same thing below. Remember that you can make an area lighter by using a tissue to soak up some of the color. This is a really nice way to create contrast between light and dark, so be sure to try it. I'm adding orange to the edge of this mountain, then adding some water, then painting a purple edge and adding some water. Then blotting up a bit of the color with some Kleenex. I'm making a dark purple line on the bottom, then adding some water right on top of it, then cleaning the paint off my brush, and then mixing some clear water into the paint. Once again, I'm removing a bit of the paint with some tissue. I'm using a dark purple edge for my final mountain, then filling in with some water. And now I'm repeating the same thing up top. I'm adding medium blue paint across the top of the sky, then cleaning the paint off my brush, and filling in with water. I'm doing the same thing on the other side. And I'm doing the same thing below in the reflection. Adding the blue paint, then removing the blue paint from my brush, then adding clear water to my clean brush, and allowing this water to mix with the blue paint. If your cup of water starts to get dirty, be sure to clean it out. You really want to have clean, clear water in order for this technique to work. I'm mixing water and black paint to create a very thin, smooth black surface here. I'm adding some light gray paint along the shoreline. I'm using a very tiny brush and different shades of green and purple paint in the shrubs. I hope you love how your painting turns out. Please support me by liking this video, say hi in the comments below, and be sure to check out the other amazing art lessons and art tutorials on my channel, Rainbow Parrot Art.